It's time, Fort Wayne. Your sports, your station. It's the Sports Rush with Brett Rupp. Covering all the topics that hit a nerve here in the Summit City.
Clark goes 11 yards, touchdown.
Only on 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM. Now here's your host, Brett Rump.
The greatest, most interesting, most important person of all time.
You are incredible. Older than one. Yeah, well, you're half right. What is this, amateur hour?
This is going to be huge.
I believe this is going to be our finest hour.
Just when I think you said the stupidest thing ever, you keep talking.
I think that's the worst thing I've ever heard.
That boy ain't right.
The simplest way to put it, I have problems.
Welcome to the alleged show.
Moving like Jagger through a Monday, and you got to be moving today. You're going to get cold because, man, it's chilly today, and it's going to get even colder by next week. The coldest weather of the season is supposed to be upon us sometime, I think, late weekend into early next week. It is the Sports Rush. We're your daily local sports fix, 4 to 6. I am Brett Rupp along with Adam Lundy. And, of course, you are connected on the Parkview Sports Medicine text line, 260-447-8500, 260-447-8500. Plus, we have our show streaming. We try to do this on Mondays. We've got it streaming live right now at Facebook. You can watch the show if you want to get the video portion of the Sports Rush. Go to facebook.com/1380 The Fan. We have got so much to talk about today. We've got NFL football, the playoffs, the wild card round, still in progress because his game's still tonight.
Yeah.
With Minnesota and the Los Angeles Rams in Arizona. They're playing, it's like a bowl game, right?
Right, neutral site.
Yeah, they're playing in a neutral site, so it's kind of like Fiesta Bowl Part 2 or something. But that game moved because of the fires out in Los Angeles. And, of course, we encourage everybody to support the Red Cross in their efforts to provide relief for those that have been affected by the fires out in the Los Angeles area. But we'll talk about the NFL wild card. Also, Colts news might have found their defensive coordinator. Depends on what reports you want to believe. You know, it's very interesting that one report from NBC Sports came out saying that the Colts had their guy and that they were zeroing in on Dennis Allen to become their next defensive coordinator. That story then got pulled about an hour later when everybody else was simply reporting that the Colts were planning on interviewing Dennis Allen. So I don't know if NBC got tipped off that he might be their top guy or their number one target for the defensive coordinator's job, but it was interesting how they worded it, and then they rescinded it. But now everybody is basically saying that they've got him scheduled for an interview. Also, we've got news from around the NFL. There's hiring and firing news to talk about. We've got college basketball, plenty of college basketball. Women's college basketball, men's college basketball, you name it, we're going to talk about it. Hoosiers, Purdue, we've got the Pacers. I mean, that's all happening this weekend. It was a very busy sports weekend, and we hope you enjoyed it. What was your biggest story from the weekend in sports? Let us know at 260-447-8500. Or for those of you that are jumping on Facebook, you can also comment there at facebook.com/1380 The Fan. How was your sports weekend? I think, the Knicks put up like 160 or something?
It was 140 to 106 over the Bucks yesterday.
Oh, man, and I saw where Brunson and Towns both had big games.
Yes, they did, and it was a nice bounce-back win because the game before we had gotten absolutely smoked by the Oklahoma City Thunder. So it was a nice bounce-back win for the Knicks.
Well, we're glad for your Knicks, but you know who else had a big day yesterday?
Who else?
The Pacers.
Hey, yeah.
Pacers got a huge win. From behind win against the Cleveland Cavaliers. Not only did they come from behind, but then they put them away. They had fans exiting Cleveland early.
Leaving early, yeah, and they snapped a good winning streak there for the top of the East Cleveland Cavaliers.
There's something about Indiana teams going into Cleveland yesterday. Huh?
Oh, yeah. I know what you're getting at, my man. Lauren Ross.
Purdue, Fort Wayne, Lauren Ross, big three-pointer, and the Mastodons and a 29-game home court winning streak for the Cleveland State Vikings women's basketball program. Huge win for Maria Marchesano. They just continue to elevate.
They do.
I mean, right now, look at the standings. Where are they at? First place. How many losses do they have in the league? That would be a big fat 0.
Oh, yeah.
Undefeated in Horizon League play.
Feels like every year just the expectations go up, too. Because, I mean, you know what we're aiming for now with that women's basketball team.
Well, you know what? We like to dance with men and women.
Hey, we don't judge here.
We listen, but we don't judge. But, yeah, it's time to dance.
I'm ready. Some of these dons need to go dancing, man.
Yeah, we got to get to that dance at some point. I mean, last year the women made it in the WNIT.
Yeah, great run there.
To the final 16, and that close because I think the team that beat them went on to win it.
Yeah, they lost to the eventual champions. Yeah, I do believe so.
Did they lose to Minnesota in the championship? I can't remember how far they went.
Yeah.
I know, though, that the Mastodons, I thought, should have won that game, and they let it slip away, but that's part of, I guess, developing a program is along the way you're going to have your hiccups, and they had a great season, just didn't quite have enough to get any further than the final 16.
Yeah, so Purdue Fort Wayne in the WNIT, they lost to St. Louis, and then St. Louis did go on to win the WNIT.
Yeah, I thought they won it.
Yeah, they won over Minnesota by 19, actually.
What ifs? And the St. Louis game was a very close game with the Mastodons.
4-point game, 82-78.
Yep. 260-447-8500. You question my memory. Why would you do that to me?
Never would do that.
Come on, man. All right, so so wild finish last night. Commanders and the Bucks.
I called it. I got it on my sheet over there. I don't know if they covered though.
Well, I think the Bucks were favored, weren't they?
You know what? They were favored.
The Bucks were 3-point. Because I think was that the 3-point game? Because there was one that I said would end up being a 3-point game because you and I took opposite sides and it was a 3-point line.
Yeah, it was Bucks -3.
But you ended up getting the underdog and they won. So if the Bucks would have won by 3, we'd have pushed. But instead, you end up getting that game right. I don't know that I did all that well.
I'll check your sheet here and let you know.
It was a doink kick on the final play of the game off the right upright that went through for the winning kick for the Commanders. But I'll tell you, the story to me is Jaden Daniels.
Yeah.
He does not play like a rookie.
No.
I mean, this guy's already seasoned to where he's where is he in ranking of quarterback? He's at least top half. Is he top 10?
Mm-hmm.
On the verge, maybe, of breaking into the top 10? Because this has become a habit for him. Game-winning drives. You don't see that from a rookie, especially his first playoff game.
Very
and just
impressive.
The poise and composure and accuracy and leadership. I mean, Jaden Daniels has turned out to be the steal of the draft. And the Commanders gave us really the only entertainment that we had as far as the NFL playoffs over the weekend, because a lot of the games ended up being fairly one-sided. But Daniels finished 24 of 35 for 268 yards, couple of touchdowns, and he ran for 36 more yards. So he actually accumulated over 300 yards of total offense in the Commanders' 23-20 win over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Meanwhile, the one-sided games, the Steelers tried again, and I know I missed that one because I took the points with the Steelers, didn't I?
Yeah, you did. I can tell you they did not cover.
They did not cover the points, no. Nobody covered the points because it was blowout city. And Baltimore routed the Steelers. And now everybody in Pittsburgh wants Mike Tomlin gone. This has been an annual thing now for 2 or 3 years.
Right.
That just having a winning record in the regular season and a short visit to the playoffs is not good enough for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Mike Tomlin, should he stay or should he go?
I mean, it's just you always have to ask the question, if you fire him, who do you replace him with? And will they be able to deliver better results than that? Yeah.
I mean, the thing is he's been extremely consistent. And so, there's no real failure there, or there's no real issue to fire him because of a failure. It's more, where do we set the bar? What's the fair expectation? And is he reaching the potential of what this roster can give us? And maybe the max of this roster is to finish above 500. But, the part of the problem with this season is they got off to such a good start, and then it all went to what. They didn't finish the year. And so I think the fans are disappointed in the fact that the season brought so much hope through the first 10, 11, 12 weeks, and then all of a sudden over the last 5 or 6, it completely got away from them, and they end up one and done and not even competitive in their lone playoff game. Yeah. And a division rival who you lose to for the third time, right?
Right, and it has been a long drought since they have been to a Super Bowl or won a Super Bowl.
Or a playoff win.
Yeah, or a playoff win in general. So, I mean, it just depends how sick of it are you.
I can't imagine, though. I mean, I'm like Pittsburgh.
It's just too loyal of an organization. I mean, you can look at their head coaching history. It's, 3 coaches since 1945 or something like that?
Yeah, and I don't think Noel got fired. I think he stepped away. I think Bill Cowher stepped away.
So they just don't fire.
The question is, would Mike Tomlin feel that maybe it's time to give the organization a new voice? Mm-hmm. Because, the fans are starting to turn on where this organization is. And so I kind of feel like, hey, if they let him go, I don't know that they upgrade. And I think somebody else snags a coach that's going to be a steal for them, because they would not have expected to have a Mike Tomlin on the market. Like the Bears.
Yeah.
Although the Bears might have their guy because of what happened down in Dallas.
Yeah, we'll see what's going on down in Dallas.
What else happened over the weekend with the NFL playoffs? Trying to remember who played who, because I got so bored I didn't watch it hardly any game past about a quarter or two.
The Eagles looked pretty dominant over the Packers. Jordan Love
Love just looked bad.
Yeah, I was going to say he didn't look good at all. And then obviously the Bills steamrolled the Broncos.
A lot of the problem with the Packers, though, is their offensive line wasn't doing the job.
Right. Not
because if you saw like Lamar Jackson and the performance he put on, I mean, he had all day in the pocket.
Yeah.
It's like, did Pittsburgh come to play because they put no? That's one thing that you expect from Pittsburgh is they'll pressure the quarterback.
Right.
They had nothing going as far as pressuring Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, paging T.J. Watt, where are you?
Well, and you wonder, too, if the running threat, his escapability and then ability to break big plays, also causes you to have a more conservative pass rush, because you don't want to get caught too deep in the backfield where you can step up and run. Mm-hmm. So you're very protective of your, quote, lanes, and maybe that limits your ability to get to the quarterback. But they were just giving Lamar Jackson way too much time in the pocket.
And then
what do you have, 7 seconds or something on one throw? The touchdown throw, I think he had like 7 seconds or some ridiculous amount of time.
Too much time, and then, of course, Derrick Henry was being a bulldozer, as he tends to be when he gets running.
And Pittsburgh looked like they were scared to tackle him.
Right. I mean, like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, it's like, I'll kind of push him as he goes by and hope he falls.
He's going to bounce right off you and get to the end zone.
They were not – there was certainly not a lot of form tackling going on. Because I was thinking about watching – that game, that it's like, and they said the Colts can't tackle. Well, they haven't seen this Pittsburgh team. And I think tackling as a whole in all of football has become somewhat of a lost art. And for a couple of reasons. Number one, you can't practice it anymore.
Right.
All the players' unions and stuff are limiting the amount of contact, and so you can't practice tackling, and so you don't develop the skill. And then number two, because of the rules. College football has these very liberal targeting rules where anybody that puts a head down and happens to collide with the head of an opposing player ends up getting targeting, and the punishment is you're gone. You're out of the game. And so nobody wants to actually go down and go for the thighs and get below the hips and wrap and hit, put the pad. Because even if you get into that position and inadvertently have a helmet-to-helmet hit, you're subject to being thrown out of a game. And so you have guys constantly just trying to grab and spin guys or throw them. There's just not a lot of good quality form tackling in football.
And then if you spin and throw, you get called for a hip drop tackle. So
yeah, you got to be careful with that, too, because you can't use your weight to bring him down. Yeah. Yeah, it's almost like, let's just go ahead and play flag, because we got that many problems with people that actually hit people to take them down, then maybe we should just all play flag football.
Two-hand touch. Taking a look at the text line, if you have any thoughts on this weekend, it's 260-447-8500. Somebody said, in other words, Daniels gives Washington everything the Colts don't have at quarterback.
That's a good point. Exactly. And that's why we say, you can use the excuse, and usually you only hear it from the teams that poorly drafted, but you could hear the excuse, well, he's a young quarterback and it takes time to develop. But then you've got examples like Jared Goff or like Josh Allen was a year in, okay? Yeah. So maybe a little bit of an up and down first year for Josh Allen. But Jaden Daniels, another example of a guy that came in and right away you could see he had it.
Right, and I'll even throw in Bo Nix. Obviously, he didn't have a good game against the Buffalo Bills, but quality first season for a rookie, absolutely.
Comets winning 3 straight on the road. We asked, what's the highlight of your sports weekend?
Yeah.
Rodney chimed in on our Facebook video.
Hey, shout out to Rodney. Somebody else texted in. They said, I was watching soccer this weekend in England, and Sheffield Wednesday, which I looked it up, it's a team in the second division of English soccer.
Yeah, you're going to have to educate me on this because I have no idea.
They have a sponsor on the back of their jersey called Mr. Vegas. He wants to know, is that Mr. Vegas' company, and does he sponsor a soccer team in England? Somebody else said the highlight of their weekend is the Buckeyes and the Ravens both won.
Yep.
Interesting set of teams to root for.
All right, there we go. What's the highlight of your sports weekend? You can let us know on the Parkview Sports Medicine text line at 260-447-8500. Or you could message us. Always easy to get a hold of us on Facebook. On Mondays, often we are streaming. And, I didn't realize when I put this on this morning, I thought I was putting on a navy blue sweater. But my apartment's kind of dark, and I have a gray dress shirt, right? Button-up collar, gray dress shirt.
Yeah.
I have gray pants. I have a black sweater.
It doesn't look bad.
I look like a colorblind guy got dressed this morning. I thought I was adding a splash of color with a navy sweater, and it ended up being a black sweater. So if you're watching and you're thinking, geez, why kind of bland today, that's why. It was dark when I got dressed. I didn't even notice. Also, Sparty weighing in. Great show, guys. Let's go Lions. Been waiting 63 years for this.
Wow. That's a long time, but they're looking good.
And, all right, so what do we got in headlines? Let's look around the world of sports, find out what's today's top headlines.
My music isn't playing.
Da-da-da-da.
Let's see if I can get it to play in this one. Okay, I guess I don't have audio for my headlines. My wall's not playing. My wall's not playing any audio, Brett. Let's just get into headlines.
I would try to give you some background music.
You're good. We'll do it without it. We're going to start off with what one of our listeners mentioned on Facebook is that the Comets swept a weekend on the road, first with 2 comeback wins over Tulsa. They then got a shutout win over the Wichita Thunder yesterday. Goalie Connor Unger thwarted all 17 shots he faced on his 23rd birthday for the first shutout of his first pro season. That included a stop of Ryan Finnegan at the end of a third-period breakaway rush when the Comets already had a 3-0 lead. A Texas man has been charged with felony stalking after he allegedly sent, quote, numerous threats and sexually charged messages, end quote, to Indiana Fever star Caitlin Clark, according to Wish TV. Michael Lewis, the suspect in question, even traveled to Indianapolis from Texas.
Was in a hotel.
Yeah, authorities identified him through his IP address. According to Fox 59, Lewis messaged Clark on social media at one point to say he had been, quote, driving around your house 3 times a day. So
that's scary.
Very scary stuff. The stalking charge is a level 5 felony and carries a prison sentence of up to 6 years if a suspect is convicted. And you kind of mentioned this one. Mike McCarthy will not return as the Dallas Cowboys head coach in 2025. Jerry Jones announced today. The Chicago Bears and New Orleans Saints are expected to be interested in speaking with McCarthy regarding their vacancies. Last week, the Bears, of course, had an official request for permission to speak with McCarthy that was denied by Jerry Jones and the Cowboys.
Yeah, what's the point in that? We're going to talk about that, but why do you deny the Bears the opportunity to speak to him if you know you're not bringing, because apparently there wasn't an interview, there wasn't a meeting, there wasn't discussions about a new contract. Apparently there was just like no talk, just basically notification that we're moving forward. And I don't get it. There you go. Today's top headlines with Adam Lundy. Once again, 260-447-8500 is the Parkview Sports Medicine text line, or you can watch the show by going to facebook.com/1380 The Fan. Monday edition of the Sports Rush on 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM.
This is Maria Marquesano, head women's basketball coach at Purdue Fort Wayne, and you're listening to the Sports Rush with Brett Rump on 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM.
Well, that's pretty appropriate because we're going to be talking to Maria Marquesano, women's basketball coach, Purdue Fort Wayne, in hour number 2. She will be along at around 5:35, and just ahead of that, we've got the great Don Fisher. Not only is he the Hall of Fame legend, Hoosier broadcaster, but also now, once again, for like the 28th time, the Indiana Broadcaster of the Year.
Awesome. Yeah, well-deserved for Don.
Guy's got to retire and give the rest of us a chance.
Yeah, take your name out of that.
Well, that's like I wondered, has Rakestraw ever won that before? Because, I mean, nobody does more sports around this state than Greg Rakestraw.
You are not kidding. That is...
But I did see where Don Fisher won it for the state of Indiana, so congratulations to Don. We'll talk to him and maybe throw our congratulations out in person coming up at about 5:15, 5:20 this afternoon.
Sounds good to me.
260-447-8500. That's the Parkview Sports Medicine text line, 260-447-8500. We're asking the question of what you enjoyed most about your sports weekend. Was it the NFL playoffs? Was it college basketball? You had an Indiana disaster on Saturday night.
Yeah. I don't even know if that's dramatic enough to describe what happened.
We'll talk to Don about what happened.
I'm sure he's
Iowa.
not pleased.
No, I mean, you make it, they're so tough because you've got no control as the radio guy. You're just kind of there doing your job.
Right.
And it gets very frustrating when guys don't show up to play because you're thinking you've only got about 30 chances. And you almost wonder with a guy like Mike Woodson, who's got such a strong NBA tie, they play 80-some games. And so there's nights that NBA guys don't show up, and it's no big deal, right? Because you got 82 games to play well. You're going to win 46-47 if you've got a different team or a decent team. Mm-hmm. And you win 46-47 games, you're going to end up probably 4th, 5th in the seeding. So it's not that big a deal if you have a couple of nights where you don't show up. But in college basketball, when you're dealing with a 20-game conference schedule or 22-game conference schedule, you can't afford to have 2 or 3 nights where you just decide, I don't really feel like it tonight. Not in the mood. And it's almost like Indiana was that way for a lot of that game against Iowa. Just heads not on, not playing well. And so we'll talk to Don Fisher about what happened with Indiana, Iowa. I'll tell you who played well was Purdue.
Yeah, complete opposite side of the spectrum there for weekend basketball. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now everybody's going to claim I'm a Purdue homer, but let's just look at the scores. You determine they took on a pretty good Nebraska team that's played well and just absolutely ran them out of the gym like they were a mid-major. I mean, not even close. And I'll tell you what, the guy that's really coming into his own and could be, that X factor because that's the key is it's not the guys that return. It's who's going to be the one that steps up and becomes that key role player that they need with the absence of Zach Edey. C.J. Cox, wow. And this guy was not recruited. You know how many schools passed on C.J. Cox before Matt Painter said he plays like a boiler? He's got that grit to him, defensive. He's an effort guy. Matt Painter decided, I don't care how many stars he have. I don't care if he doesn't have a star. It doesn't matter to me. He's the kind of guy we want because he's going to make us a better basketball team. Matt Painter got him into Purdue, and was he something yesterday.
Absolutely, yeah. Just
on fire. And a big day for Fort Wayne product, Fletcher Lawyer.
Yeah, he's been good too. So
it was fun to watch Lawyer go against the Siegen.
Yeah.
They both had pretty decent games.
Oh, yeah, and they're well aware of each other.
Not as much for the teams, like Fletcher's team dominated Connor's team. But those two combined for 36 points yesterday.
Fun stuff.
260-447-8500. So Chris Ballard spoke to the media at the end of the week last week, and I've kind of rehashed a lot of what he said back in my brain, and I listened to a little bit of it over my lunch hour today. And here's the thing: is once you hear it back a second time, third time, what you may have missed is that Chris Ballard gave us a lot of the same rhetoric, same Chris Ballard tone that we have heard year after year after year, despite the fact that he steps forth and says, I've got to change, I've got to do better. He comes with a very, humble approach. But the bottom line is he's still saying the same things he said. He's still talking the talk that, and here's some of the things we heard. We've got a lot of young, talented players here. We really do. Okay. That was like a direct quote. Then he said, he really likes a lot of the players they've got. We have to look at what's going to help us in free agency, which right away he's starting to express a reluctancy to bring somebody in to knock somebody out of a job because he thinks the players they've got are talented, and he thinks there's a lot of young talent that probably needs to be playing. And I'm like, those are the things we've been hearing for years. And it's also what's put the Colts into a position where they don't improve. It's status quo. They just keep coming back with, mediocre football teams that finish somewhere within a game or so of 500. And if you happen to flip a game during the season, you might get lucky and make the playoffs, but you don't have a real Super Bowl roster. So you're not going to go far if you do make the playoffs. And that's what we've seen this year is a lot of teams that maybe had their little run or maybe played a little above what they've got as far as talent, a couple of games, picked up the extra wins, they end up in the playoffs, and then you see teams like the Steelers and the Packers soundly beaten by teams that have built a roster to what? Win the Super Bowl, right? The teams that won, Buffalo, Philadelphia, Baltimore, what are they? They're all Super Bowl contenders. What are the other teams? Playoff contenders. I mean, nobody talked about the Steelers being a legitimate Super Bowl contender this year.
Right. I mean, it's kind of like you're setting yourself up to just not have to take a big swing when you mention so much about how you already like these guys that you already have and how you have the young talent. It's a premonition that you're putting out there. So it's saying, hey, we already have this, so I don't have to take those big swings to make big changes that I'm talking about.
Yeah, because now I might have to do the extra work of really evaluating where our needs are, where we were exposed last year, and making some hard decisions that could put me in jeopardy if those tough decisions don't pan out. But if we're safe and we end up, 500 with a young roster, I can come back next year and say, I like where we're heading. I like the young talent. I really do. We've got some good football players here. We do.
It's just not right. It's not true. If you want the team to change, you have to make team-changing decisions.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
Okay, so do the Colts have their next defensive coordinator? And if so, what do you think about it? Let us know, Colts fans, because the name that has surfaced at the top of everyone's list right now seems to be former Saints head coach and longtime defensive coordinator in New Orleans under Sean Payton, Dennis Allen.
I don't hate it.
I don't hate it.
I don't hate it either.
Experienced guy. You're not pulling a position coach to become a defensive coordinator. An experienced guy that not only knows how to run a defense, but he also knows how to run a football team and maybe could provide some mentorship to Shane Steichen. It didn't go well for New Orleans. But it wasn't a disaster for Dennis Allen as a head coach, just wasn't good enough. And so, they were okay. But the bottom line is his defenses were always good. They were always exceptional. They threw different looks at you, so they always had pressure on the quarterback. They always found ways to get pressure on the quarterback. I'm not opposed to Dennis Allen as the Colts defensive coordinator. Might be right now the biggest name that I think has been out there. Let's put it this way. It's a heck of a lot better than the people that have put Matt Eberflus on the list. Please, no.
Oh, no reunion with Eberflus as the DC, huh?
No. Matt, there's going to be an opportunity for you somewhere, but it won't be in Indianapolis. But the hiring and the firing was kind of big news today in the NFL. We'll talk about that when we come back. Once again, we're on Facebook. You can watch us. You don't just have to listen. You can actually watch the Sports Rush today by going to facebook.com/1380thefan.
Not only can you watch, you can chat with us there where you get behind-the-scenes looks during commercial breaks, so you get the full experience.
And you can always text us at 260-447-8500. It is a Monday edition of the Sports Rush on 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM. Good question coming in on the Parkview Sports Medicine text line asking about circus tickets, and I'm hopeful somebody wants to win some circus tickets. In fact, they're willing to go to great lengths to try to win circus tickets from our radio station.
Willing to climb the summit of trivia.
They think they can beat me.
In Tuesday time. I don't know,
doesn't happen that often. Sorry, you might find an easier way to win tickets. I would say listen for a keyword.
Here's another good text that just came across here, 260-447-8500. They say the Colts have become the Cowboys of the AFC, selling false hope of the past success of the Manning era, only to truly accept mediocre football teams because fans buy it and still stuff millions into the owners' pockets.
Do you think these two owners, and because they're mentioning owners here,
yes,
right? Do you think these two owners intentionally put 500 football teams on the field because it's the quickest way to a buck?
Man, if you have any reverence for the sport at all, of the team of the sport you own,
I don't think so.
That's tough.
I think both of these owners are extremely passionate about trying to win a championship. And so I don't. Now, they may have hired people that have made it look that way because they've not maybe hired, the best people. Here's the problem in Dallas is that Jerry Jones tries to run the football team. He thinks he's the smartest man when it comes to football decisions. And he and his son make most of the personnel and football decisions. And I think there's better people that can put together a staff of scouts and evaluators that would probably be better than what Jerry has done, although they have had some pretty decent picks. But I think both teams are desperate. They've got aging owners. And in the case of Indianapolis, we don't know the status of Jim Irsay's health. It seems like maybe it is declining, and we don't know how long. It's not just how long he'll live, it's how long he'll be able to be around the organization and enjoy successes should they come. I think Jim Irsay is at a point where he's almost desperate to try to get a championship. And he feels like change would set him back a couple of years, and he's not sure about being set back a couple of years. And, because if you bring in a new general manager to replace Chris Ballard, what do? They come in, they blow it up and kind of start it over, and it's a rebuild that might take 3 or 4 years. And Jim Irsay doesn't have that patience, nor does he maybe feel he's got that time. And Jerry Jones, kind of the same way. He's been grinding for year after year after year, trying to get that Super Bowl, and I think, he's kind of scratching, trying to figure out of desperation, what does he need to do to give his team the best chance to win a championship. This year, they got derailed because they lost a quarterback. Unfortunately for the Colts, they may have been derailed because their quarterback came back and was healthy for at least the most part.
Right.
Because we still have to question whether Anthony Richardson is the future for Indianapolis. And if he is, how long is it going to take before he becomes a Super Bowl caliber quarterback? Because to me, what we saw this year, it's not going to happen by next season.
Right. And I'm still concerned about what we've been hearing about the spine and the back stuff and the shoulder stuff and the everything stuff.
I've had spine issues since
the whole crawling around the house
thing or whatever.
That really threw me off.
I mean, it's just terrible. But anyway, a lot of news in NFL circles as far as the hirings and the firings. Mike McCarthy officially is out in Dallas. I don't get that whole situation and it seems like it was a decision that was made long prior.
Yeah.
Oh,
no, you're good. I was just going to say, I can confirm that there were no contract negotiations at all.
Nothing. There were no talks about him coming back at all.
None.
They basically just had a 2-week window, and they decided they were going to use it.
Yep. It says both sides parted ways before ever getting to the contract negotiation stage.
And so the Bears, who wanted to talk to Mike McCarthy, were denied the opportunity to interview him.
That just looks so petty now, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does a little bit. And
just to make them wait, a week, 9 days?
Well, and they didn't go hire anybody else. So, I guess if McCarthy's their guy, that as of midnight tomorrow night, he becomes available because he becomes basically a coaching free agent.
Yep.
But he's out in Dallas. But also news over the weekend of who's in New England. Oh, a shocker.
Who would have guessed this one?
Never saw this one coming. Mike Vrabel's been hired as the next Patriots head coach. And now people are all over Robert Kraft and how they handled Gerard Mayo and thinking they did him dirty. They had the chance to hire Vrabel a year ago. They chose not to. Now they bring him in, and they just basically tell Mayo, hey, thanks for, filling in for a year, but we're going to go a different direction.
Yeah. I mean, it is a weird optic. I don't know. Maybe there was not.
And they try to fool us by waiting a week, like, we've gone through the process.
And they interviewed other coaches.
Yeah, they had their mind made up. And it's not like Mike Vrabel was making the circuit, going and doing interviews. No. This deal was done a couple of weeks ago, and both sides thought it would look better if they waited to announce it for at least a week or so after the firing of Gerard Mayo. But they couldn't drag it too far or it would have leaked. And because somebody would eventually figure out that Mike Vrabel's not taking interviews. Why is he not taking interviews? And they'd have figured it out. But Vrabel is in New England. And so, I think it's a good move for New England.
I do too.
But it's just a bad way of going about a good move.
Yeah, bad optics on a good move. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a good season, though. I think Vrabel has the potential to get things going over there in New England.
260-447-8500, 260-447-8500. I know somebody wanted us to talk about the Pacers instead of the Hoosiers because if we're talking Indiana basketball, we should be talking about a winner and not a team that was pathetic on Saturday night. That came from the text line. That was not me. Somebody from the text line said, if we're going to talk Indiana basketball, can we please make it about the Pacers and not the Hoosiers so we can talk about a winner right now because the Pacers are on the rise. And the Pacers are on the rise. In fact, what they did against Cleveland's pretty darn impressive because they had to make that comeback without Tyrese Halliburton. And we don't know. The only word I got after the game was he was experiencing tightness.
Yeah, that's all Rick Carlisle said after the game, although I can tell you now that he is listed as doubtful for the Pacers-Cavs game tonight with left hamstring soreness, so it is affecting him.
Well, it's one of those things, I think, that you pull him out of a game, you're not going to throw him right back into the next game the next day. You're probably going to give him a break. Do they play tonight or tomorrow night?
It's, I believe it is, I'll check. I'll just want to make sure.
I thought there was a day in between, but regardless, I think
it's tomorrow.
It's tomorrow night.
It's tomorrow.
I mean, again, like John Conchar said, any kind of thing at all and the NBA is extremely cautious. They pull you out. That's why so many stars don't play. They don't, and this is the problem is it's not the stars that are always making these calls. It's the team wants to preserve what they've got and take care of it. It's kind of like buying a Rolls Royce and then parking it in the garage only for a very special occasion. And it's kind of what the NBA has become. It's become a garage full of Rolls Royces.
Yeah, you really don't like to see doubtful, though. I mean, questionable, I'd be a little less concerned, but doubtful for tomorrow's game. And if they do rest him, this is kind of a big game, though. I mean, it's a TNT nationally televised game. It's at home.
But they did get their win. So if they split, I think they'd be satisfied with that, especially if they keep Halliburton healthy. I mean, you can't throw him out there if there's any risk of developing any kind of further damage, if it's a tight or strained muscle.
Well, yeah, at least they got their win on the non-nationally televised.
Adam's taking the tough guy approach.
Got to play.
Wrap it and put him out there. That's the old school, right? Just wrap it in ace bandage real tight and get out there.
Knicks weren't allowed to use the injury excuse when we lost.
That's right. I was telling the Mastodons when we were on trip, I said, today is so different in sports on how injuries are handled.
Right.
I said, I got an elbow right square to the middle of my nose, knocked my nose itself over on the middle of my cheek.
It looked like a Picasso.
I had double vision and told my coaches, I said, because they're like, why were you, 2 for 5 at the free throw line? I said, I think 2 for 5 is pretty good. Because I said I'd look up, see 2 baskets, and have to figure out which one to aim at. And then when I sprained my ankle, and I missed no time for either a concussion or a broken nose. You know what they gave me? They gave me that little that mask, that Michael Myers Halloween kind of mask.
Protect your nose.
Throw this on your nose. I hated it. Took it off by halftime. Nobody complained that I had taken it off. And the other thing is, and I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus. This is the way it was every school, not just mine. But the other thing was when you sprain your ankle, okay, the advanced way they treated it when I was in school, and again, this has been a while, but they would tape it. And then they'd say, okay, get up and see how it feels. You get up, you move, and it's like, it's still a little sore. All right, let me sit back up there, and they'd put another round of tape, right? I say, if I had a serious sprained ankle, I wouldn't miss time, but I'd be wearing a cast of athletic tape around my ankle to hold it in place.
Back in my day, we put some dirt in it.
I said, now, you tweak anything, and it's like 2 to 3 weeks we'll reevaluate. And, probably better this way.
And, I mean, that's where nowadays depth in a program comes into play because there's a chance that any player at any given time will need to miss time. So depth is important.
Yeah, and, and that's like Mulder's situation.
Exactly,
right?
Yeah.
I mean, he rolled his ankle. How many guys have rolled their ankle playing basketball, right? And generally it's, okay, if you can bear the pain, you're probably back out there. That's the old school approach, right?
Yeah.
But with him, he's gone through MRIs, he's gone to specialists, and, they determine what the timeline is, the extent of the injury. No, for me, I could have an ankle that looked like a grapefruit with black and purple all over it, and they'd say, if we can tape it up, I think it'll be okay, as long as it fits in your shoe.
Go get some boards, Brett.
Yeah. How many fingers am I holding up? They'll hold up 2. I'll say 3. Close enough. Get out there and play.
It's like that classic LeBron quote after he hit a game winner, after he got bopped in the head. He said, I saw 3 baskets out there. I just aimed at the middle one.
Kind of the way it was. 260-447-8500. 260-447-8500. We've got to take a break. Big hour on the way. We got Don Fisher for our 15 Minutes with Fish, and we talk to women's basketball coach Maria Marchesano, who has completely turned around the Purdue Fort Wayne women's basketball program. That all comes up before we wrap it up at 6. It is a Monday edition of the Sports Rush on 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM.